Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Food and Finance Show. And today we have a guest that is bringing together two different industries, or I guess you say two different concepts in one industry, and that are ghost kitchens and food trucks. And I'm excited to have them on the show. So stay tuned.
Welcome to another great episode of the Food and Finance Show, where we talk about two things we know you love: great food and money. So stay tuned because we got a great show coming your way.
Now, without further ado, let me bring on Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Andrew, you're bringing together two concepts. I mean, food trucks, which is something that's been around for a while, but ghost kitchens, which I feel like ghost kitchens have been around. It's just people haven't really understood, the play that it has. Tell us a little bit about, what was your background and kind of how did you even get into bringing these two concepts together?
Yeah, sure. So I've been a hospitality guy for my entire professional career. Started working at bars and restaurants when I was going through school. Went to Syracuse in Central New York. Started running restaurants and nightclubs after that. Eventually, I started learning more about food tech. Started doing some research for some private equity guys that wanted to invest in fast casual restaurants. And during my research, I started to notice that more and more orders were being packed up and picked up by delivery guys, and there was more and more seats that were available and vacant. So I started to think about what the future could look like. Netflix and chill was really hitting its peak in like 2016. That's kind of what people wanted to do, sit on their couch and eat food. So how can we do that better than other people? And that was the start of the inspiration. And when it came to food trucks, I spent 4 years in Southern California. Obviously, beautiful seasonal food trucks everywhere. And to me, that meant really high quality food that was created by someone that had a lot of passion for what they're doing. So I started to put together a system where I could create multiple concepts using the food truck premise, and then kind of hybrid that with this coming, ghost kitchen industry where things were really meant to be delivered or picked up.
Gotcha. I love it. I love the way, like I said, that you're blending so many different things that you learn from other industries, kind of outside of your traditional hospitality approach, because, it's been very interesting to see how, the restaurant industry has been around for, it's been around for centuries, but just to see some of the innovations and the changes. So as you started to, like I said, really, bring this concept to life of bringing the two together, what was kind of the reception when you'd explain to people, hey, this is what we're doing?
To be perfectly honest, it was not good. Keep in mind, 3 or 4 years ago, no one had really heard of a ghost kitchen or a virtual restaurant. So when I was explaining what I was doing, people were thinking like they had to put on VR goggles, and that was like part of the concept. For the first 9 months, I think my mom was constantly asking me like, well, where are all those trucks going to park? Not understanding that they were only existing in a digital and virtual world. So it was definitely challenging to express to our guests what we were doing and what was happening. As we've been around for a little bit longer, and now, with the pandemic and many of these concepts going on all over the country and the world, people are a little bit more comfortable and aware of the idea of what a ghost kitchen is.
Gotcha. As you were talking about that, I was trying to like just visualize what people were picturing in their minds. Like I said, of just seeing some people sitting around with virtual goggles on, waiting for their food to show up. Like,
I think that was the impression. Like, I was like, oh, we're doing a virtual food truck lot. And people were like, wow, like maybe we put on goggles and we experience different, things going on. But really, what it was for us was a way for us to do a lot of different types of cuisines, rotate those cuisines, and just have a lot of fun with the menu without the guests wondering, like, how could, this tofu dish be incredible, but also you're doing smoked wings, which are great. So sometimes there's a disconnect when you're doing, wildly different things on a menu. And this was a fun way for us to organize the menu.
Gotcha. And that brings up a very interesting concept because, what I find a lot of times, and my wife and I, we have this discussion to where, like, when I first met her, she would, there would be a type of food that she would like, and then she was like, she want to order that wherever we go. Like, she saw it on the menu, and I would say, you know what, I'm not. This place specializes in seafood. I don't know if they're gonna make like the African dishes that you really like the same. Like, even though they have it on the menu. So I mean, did you find that using this approach, like I said, allowed you to overcome kind of that, I guess you'd call it like brand stagnation or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's a interesting point you brought up your wife, because our original hashtag on for when we were opening was GTK saves relationships. And part of that was, and I'm sure anybody listening or watching this right now, you've had that argument where you spend more time where you're going to order from than even enjoying the food, right? You want this, she wants that, or vice versa. And yes, that was the premise, right? If we were ordering from someplace, my wife's a vegetarian. If we were ordering from a vegetarian forward place, I probably wasn't going to be satisfied with my dish. And if we were ordering from a place that maybe I was happy with, her stuff was probably an afterthought. So that was really the intention was, we want to make sure that whatever you're craving, whether that's, something spicy, whether you're a vegan, whether you only eat proteins and you're keto, we have something that not only caters to that, but we excel in that menu item, and it's as good as anything else. So yes, having the multiple concepts really allows us to shine in multiple different ways, and also let the audience and the guests know that we know what we're doing. This, is not an afterthought. We put a lot of time and care into attention into this item.
Gotcha, gotcha. And it makes me think about the concept, like when you really look at some like major companies like Procter and Gamble and stuff, and how they have just so many different brands under the same, I guess you say, kind of corporate umbrella, to where it's just like if everything had to compete for, like that brand space, people may say, well, I like this product from that restaurant, but I don't order these type of things. So I mean, that is a very interesting and amazing way that you guys brought that to life. So how did the customers start to react when they start to understand, hey, okay, what a actual ghost kitchen is?
Yeah, I think our reaction's been good, and it's because we've been transparent. We don't pretend to be all these different companies and you don't know where your food's coming from. So we were very purposeful in where we picked our location. So although we are a ghost kitchen, we actually have a spot where you can walk in and pick up your food. So allowing the customers to have a physical presence, speak with them, answer questions, I think helped some of those. But yeah, inherently, it's always a little bit challenging for people to grasp what we're doing. It's been a lot better now. They have full confidence in what we are. You're using your Procter and Gamble example. I would say that Procter and Gamble has all these sub brands, and each of those brands has their own marketing budget and their own logos and push. We don't operate in that way. So we focus all our efforts on our parent brand of Ghost Truck Kitchen, and we've built confidence and trust in that. And this way our guests know whatever the Ghost Truck concept is, they can trust it. It's the same quality food. We make everything from scratch. We're not trying to brand out every single ghost truck we do into its own company.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that's a good point to point out for people. Now, I guess, did you find doing it that way, that as you start to to brand out Ghost Kitchen as a parent company, that people really gravitate to the Ghost Kitchen story, or do they gravitate to the idea that you guys are trying new concepts, or what is it about Ghost Kitchen that you find that people gravitate to?
So I think what makes Ghost Truck special, comparatively to other takeout concepts, is our quality of food. So we are a scratch kitchen. We're also made to order. So what that really means, right? Anybody that's had Chipotle is a scratch kitchen. But they make everything in the morning, and then it sits out on steam tables, and they scoop and serve when someone orders. And that's what kind of makes it fast casual. We treat our restaurant kitchen just like we were in a full service kitchen. So when someone orders, grilled chicken for our buffalo chicken sandwich, the chicken goes on the grill when the order is placed. It's
Wow.
not pre-cooked and sitting there. So while it does take a little longer, our quality is way above what our competitors are doing. So I think that's what really resonated with our guests first, was the quality of the food was more restaurant quality than takeout quality. The second thing that's important to us is we're a sustainable business. We're a certified green business in Jersey City. So all of our packaging is sustainable. There's no styrofoam, no hard plastic. People definitely resonate and appreciate that. There's a lot less guilt that comes with the orders when you're not discarding large pieces of plastic and styrofoam. But yeah, I think, again, it all starts with the food for us. So people trust us. They trust the quality. They trust the quality of the ingredients, and they know that we're making things fresh every day.
Gotcha. Now, when you talk about, making things fresh every day, I mean, it is on the business side, it seems like it would be an interesting thing of having to manage, hey, whatever that supply chain looks like to be able to get things fresh. Like, how has that been for you guys navigating that as opposed to where you have some more restaurants where they kind of buy in bulk, freeze it, and how has that been navigating for you guys?
Um, it's challenging actually right now, just because there has been some supply chain constraints this past summer with demand severely outpacing supply. So that's driven prices up and made things challenging. But generally speaking, we put a lot of focus before we opened on our menu design and cross product utilization. So although we offer a lot of different menu items, it really comes from similar SKUs that we maybe finish with a different sauce or a different seasoning. So we found a way to minimize our waste and make things manageable from a kitchen perspective. So although our appearance is, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing all these things, we've really simplified our processes down as far as our kitchen goes.
Gotcha. And I would say for everyone that's listening and watching, if you're in the restaurant industry or any type of hospitality, I don't know if you realize like the golden jewel that Andrew just shared with, now learning that concept, like I said, of being able to utilize the same SKUs, like that come from your experience in hospitality, or was that just, hey, as you guys were working through things, with Ghost Truck, like at what point did you kind of start to learn that?
So I was very fortunate in the same time that I was doing some consultant work for these private equity guys that I had mentioned that were investing. I was also consulting for a food tech company who was essentially doing something very similar to what I'm doing now in Brazil. The big difference that is they had every major category. So they were doing Mexican food, sushi, pizza, burgers, all these various cuisines, right? And what I learned from them was that it was not going well. They had tons of waste. All these different cuisines required different equipment, different products, and it was really challenging for them to manage that, to the point where they really dropped down and just started to focus on sushi eventually because it was their most profitable item. So I took that experience and realized, okay, I can serve a variety of different things, but we really have to keep our core products the same in order to make that work from an efficiency standpoint and a profitability standpoint.
Wow. I think that makes a lot of sense because, it brings me to my next question of, when you hear about people, especially for myself, like my background is accounting and finance, and I work with a lot of different restaurants as clients. And one of the things that I find is when people talk about going into a, restaurant business or any type of food related business, I often find that they're not as cognizant of the business side of it. So how was that for you as far as, like I said, of really developing your skill on the business side of the food related business?
Yeah, I think I say this phrase a lot and people look at me like I'm crazy, but the food and is really the last thing that you need to worry about. And of course, you need to know what your menu is to design your kitchen, and there's a lot of intricacies in there. But if you don't have the correct business model, it really doesn't matter how good your food is, how much your customers love it, because if you're not making what you need to make, you're out of business before you really even get going. So I probably spent 12 to 18 months really honing in on our business model, questioning, answering some big questions for us, which in the ghost kitchen space, and for me especially, is, how do we get people to order from us directly and not from third party? That's the biggest question that I have to answer, and I still answer. But the business part is really what matters. What your food cost is, what your bottom line targets are, how you manage your waste, what your expected labor is. All those things make a huge, huge difference. You can always tweak your menu. But if you don't have your basics down, it's really hard to be successful.
Gotcha. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, because I've learned that across all different business types, being able to grasp the business side is a very it's a huge part of the journey that I think people underestimate. Now, I guess for you in grasping that side, was there any type of experience that you've had in the past that helped that kind of set in for you more, or was it something you kind of learned over time with your hospitality experience?
I guess the simple answer is both. Given my background, I had been the general manager of a few establishments, but I'd also been the director of operations for a hospitality group. And that changed from working in the business to being able to work on the business from a higher level and really manage more by the P&Ls was a really important experience. I thought I knew most of everything, and I'd say there's no comparison to actually owning your own business. Like, you could be handling everything, but until you're the one that's responsible for people's livelihoods, paying all the bills, staying on top of every single item, it's definitely a whole different experience, regardless of your management in the past. So I always caution people, just because you've managed a place doesn't really mean you're ready for ownership. But managing by the P&L was probably the most important skill that I learned over the past few years of my experience that really helped me set this business up for success.
No, I can so relate it. It's one of those things that I think about with some of the people that work in my business when, you ask them like, how was their weekend? They may talk about a vacation. And now as a business owner, the thought that goes through my mind is, I got to make sure we continue to have clients, because if we don't make revenue, then they won't be able to go on those vacations anymore. Whereas before, it just used to be, small talk, casual conversation where it's like, yeah, I completely get it. Completely different perspective now than when you're the business owner.
Absolutely. And even mentally, like the stress that you take home and that you wear is different from an ownership perspective than a management perspective. And I encourage everybody to think long and hard about, is this something you want to dedicate your life to? I don't believe the food or hospitality business is a business that you should go into because you think you're going to make a great living at. You really need to be passionate about it and be smart about it. And if those things combine correctly, you definitely can make a nice living. But it's a hard business. Personally, I went 2 years without paying myself from the time this started to when we were actually able to get there. So not everybody can afford to do that. I'm fortunate that my wife, has a good job and was able to help me to allow us to be able to do this. But it's challenging. There's not a lot of places you could say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this for 2 years. Hopefully it works out so I can start paying myself. That's not a great move.
Well, definitely huge shout out to your wife for, and I think that's very important that you brought that up, because, her being able to help provide that, that support through the process, whether it be emotionally, financially, or whatever the case is. So definitely huge shout out to your wife for the help in that.
Definitely. And hopefully she listens to this too. It's happy again.
Awesome. So, out of all the concepts that, that you guys are doing right now, what's a food dish that really comes to the top of your mind as far as like, hey, I really like this one personally?
I would say our fried rice bowl is probably the one dish. Between the fried rice bowl and the wings are like our two of our biggest sellers. And they actually each come with a short anecdote. So I'll share those as far as informing the audience a little bit. So we have a ghost truck here that's called Meat Candy. So it's different smoked meats and proteins that come with sides, what have you. When we first rolled out, our wings on that ghost truck, they did not sell hardly at all. And our wings are unbelievable, right? We get antibiotic-free wings. They're brine. They're dry rubbed. We smoke them. They're grilled. Like, unbelievable. They weren't selling at all. So we actually took the wings and made them their own ghost truck. So we created a separate concept just for our wings, all these different flavors. Since we did that, they started flying and moving, and like, we can't even keep up with our volume. We're smoking wings every day. Fried rice bowl, on the other hand, was an item that wasn't even on our original menu. We were getting really quality eggs in from this local farm, and we weren't going through them fast enough with our baking and other goods. So we were like, okay, where else could we use eggs? One of our chefs at the time's like, how about fried rice? Okay, cool. So we tried it out, made a fried rice. It was really, really good. Like, all right, let's put it on the menu, see if it moves. And it's 2-to-1 over every other bowl that we sell now. It's become a huge staple of our menu, something that I eat frequently. And again, just from what our food waste was, we created an item off that, and now it's become a very profitable dish for us.
Nice, nice. I love it. I love it. So speaking of your amazing dishes, where people find you, and also where can they find you online too?
Sure. So our location here, we're in Jersey City, downtown Jersey City on 356 Barrack Street. We're opening a second location in Hoboken this coming winter. If you're looking for us online, you can find us at www.hellogtk.com. And then that's also our Instagram is @HelloGTK. And hopefully you guys check us out. Don't steal too many of our ideas. Sorry, you got to scroll and see my face there in the Syracuse jersey. I'm a big Cuse guy for March Madness. Yes, please, if you're in the area, check us out. I'm always a nerd about this stuff, so love to talk shop with fellow entrepreneurs in the space.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. And speaking of that, before we wrap up, one question I ask every guest that comes on is, what's 2 pieces of advice you would leave for other entrepreneurs that are trying or thinking about getting into this space?
I'd probably rehash the first, something I said a few minutes ago, which is, be prepared to not be able to pay yourself for a while, and ensure that you have enough startup cash to get you through what could be, 12 to 18 months is huge. And again, you have to love what you do. If you don't love what you're doing as an entrepreneur, you are not going to be successful. It is not a 9-to-5 job. You need to be ready to grind, whether it's at 9 p.m., 1 a.m., whatever it takes to get the job done. And it's really hard to do that if you don't love what you're doing.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's definitely been a pleasure having you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and turn on the notification bell so you get all the updates when we release a new